so quickly.
Right. You know what I learned? I learned from a police officer. When you're at a stoplight and there's other cars around you, you never be the person to pull out. You count to five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let the car next to you go because if someone's running at a light, you're the first one to say.
Right. Well, thanks. Where were you in October?
Well, I wasn't with you. You should have. I always do that. I never hit the gas.
Well, there was nothing there, and then she suddenly darted out. You know?
So, well, just remember, count to five.
Okay, I said do a couple of Mississippi.
Yeah, that will work. Rabbi?
It's time to start.
Okay. Hi, Larry.
We're here for a blessing.
Okay.
I have a couple of words to say about it afterwards.
Okay.
You can ask me what is it? How do you survive for 19 years? And then a few things to say. Okay. If you want it. It's just going to be brief words.
Okay.
It's on. Yeah, it's working. All right.
Shabbat Shalom. My name is Nan Rubin Lieber, and I am a trustee of Temple Beth Shalom. I want to welcome you all to the service tonight. And John Werbel, are you here to announce visitors?
John? Here he comes.
All right, and I will be back at the end of the service to give announcements. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm John Werbel, treasurer of Temple Beth Shalom, and I'd like to welcome our guest tonight, Eileen Samuel. Maybe you'll give us a little wave. Hi. Steve Edlin. Hi. Debbie, we didn't get your last name. Poliski, that's what okay, good. Welcome. And Katie Heiner, welcome. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to everyone. We missed a few visitors, so if anyone else wants to stand and introduce themselves, this is your chance. Okay. I also want to welcome back B and Steve. Just came. I don't think they're here tonight because they're still recovering from their trip, but they just came back from down under, Australia and New Zealand. And I was a student rabbi for 2 years in Australia, but I never went to New Zealand. And I was hoping they brought back at least a pair of kangaroos and several koalas for our biblical garden. And so we'll find out soon. If you go out to the biblical garden next week and you see little koalas on the trees eating all the leaves of the eucalyptus plant, then
That's bad.
That's bad.
How about a dingo?
so if they did bring them, we're going to have to go to Costco and get eucalyptus leaves. Maybe there's some tea or something that has the right leaves. We want to welcome Shabbat, and how better to do that than with Shalom Aleichem on page 142. Please rise. Achim lo achim hakadosh. Shalom. Baruch Hu. Shalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malach. Everyone can be seated. However, I would like 4 female volunteers to bless the candles.
Yeah.
And so this is on a first come, first served basis. All right, we got 1 and 2. Bonnie, you can come. 3, Jennifer. And 4, Monica. Page 120.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'shivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom. We continue now with the Lechadudi on page 138.
Beth Shalom.
Please rise for the Reader's Kodesh on page 144. Israel, Ba'akala, Allah, Bisman Kari. Amen. We continue with the call to worship 146. I'd like to call up Shara Young to read You Are Praised on page 229 in memory of her mother, Jeanette Young. Page 229.
You are praised, who whirls out the rough, raw clay of the universe into delicate vessels of light. And from nothing at all, we could perceive in a world that has turned old, a shimmering new creation right before our eyes, made this moment just for us. How much of life reveals your presence? How much Torah unfolds from each new flower, from each new wave that breaks upon the sea. You are praised, who forms from the clay that cloaks our lives, the delicate vessels which contain our light. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer Hamarot. I'd just like to say I'm second generation. My parents were both members here. They moved here in 77.
Do we have other second generation members here? Raise your hand. All right, Shar, you're the only one here tonight. There are a couple of others. I'd like to ask Gloria Bold to please come forward to read There Is One on page 147 in memory of her father, Silas Jacob Howard Jr., page 147.
There is one who sings a song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves a circle of herself and sings a song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nay, Verish. Let us bless.
And let us bless on page 152 with the Declaration of Faith. Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kavod Le'olam Va'ed Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. We join in English. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. The ark is closed, and please be seated as we continue with the Va'ahavta on page 154.
Va'ahavta ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם ושבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשבתך ובקומך וקשרתם לאור
על ידיך עיניך הטעם תך שעריך יזכרו אתם את כל מצותי אתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני
אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני
אדוני אלוהיכם.
And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be in thy heart, shall be in thy heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children. Thou shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, when thou risest up, and when thou liest down, and when thou liest down. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them on the doorposts of thy house, and upon thy gates, and upon thy gates, that ye may remember and do all of my commandments, and be
Holy
unto
your God, unto your God.
unto your God.
Page 235, we're going to read responsively at the bottom of page 235. If we can hear the words from Sinai, then love will flow from us, and we shall serve all that is holy with all our intellect and all our passion and all our life. All the children of God shall eat, and there will be enough. But if we turn from Sinai's words and serve only what is common and profane, making gods of our own comfort or power, then the holiness of life will contract for us. Our world will grow inhospitable. Let us honor the generations that came before us, keeping the promise for those yet to be. We continue now with the Micha Mocha, page 158.
Ya la la la, la bim bam, la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la bim bam, ya la la. Mocha bali onai mi dar bakodesh no rateilut o sefele no o sefele malachutcha ra'uvonecha bokei uve amru adonai ya la 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 la, ya la la bim bam, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 bam, ya la la la, ya la 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 bam, ya la la bim bam. Lo mi
And for the prayer that we may lie down in peace, we turn to the Hashkivenu on page 160.
la la ya la 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 ya la 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 la.
Wow. Shabbat Shalom. I debated all week whether to talk about the International Holocaust Remembrance Day or not, and I basically decided not to, and I got a call this afternoon or a text, and then I changed my mind. So I'm going to talk about it, but I didn't print off any of the photocopies that I usually fumble around with, so I'm using my phone. You know how you see these teenagers, right, Ben? Do you use your phone to read off of and things? Or you don't have a phone yet? You do? Okay. Well, when you grow up just a little bit more, you're going to read off of your phone, and people my age are going to look at you in amazement because we can't believe that you can see all that stuff in such a little tiny screen and that you're actually using that to draw all this stuff from. But anyway, I'm going to try to do that, and we Jews believe in miracles, so we'll see what happens. But it's a very sad topic, of course, but today is the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, also called the International Day in Memory of the Victims of the Holocaust. And this was declared by the United Nations just about 15 years ago. So it's not a Jewish commemoration, it's an international commemoration. And the UN asked all the member states to commemorate in some way this terrible tragedy. So it's a commemoration that is actually geared or that is directed toward nation states or members of the UN rather than individual synagogues or churches or anything of that sort. But nevertheless, it's a well-established commemoration. It's in all the newspapers. It was picked to be this day because this was also the liberation of Auschwitz by the Soviet troops. So that just on its own would merit some sort of recognition. Now there's at least two ways, of course, to look at the Holocaust, to study the Holocaust. One is from a Jewish perspective, and the other is from the perspective of the those who perpetuated the Holocaust, the Nazis, the Germans, the many people and governments in various countries that assisted. And these are fundamentally, of course, very different perspectives. The very first scholar to study the Holocaust was Raoul Hilberg, who was an Austrian Jew. His family had escaped to Cuba and reached Florida on September 1st, 1939, which was September 1st, 1939, which was the day that the Nazis invaded Poland. And I can hear myself on the monitor back there, I think. Thank you. And he later, decided to devote his career to the study of the Holocaust and produced a 1,200-page book, which became what was called The Destruction of the European Jews. And he had a lot of trouble getting it published. As you're probably aware, nobody wanted to speak about the Holocaust in the years following the Holocaust. It was not only in general society, not only in Poland or other countries, but also in the United States, also in Jewish communities, and also in Israel. It was only in the early 1960s that attitudes began to shift, when Elie Wiesel published the first of his many books, and others started coming out with memoirs. The attitude shifted very dramatically. But eventually Hilberg got his book published. And when he was writing it, he had, of course, to decide which perspective to take. And he decided that what he was interested in was totalitarianism, and therefore he wanted to look at it from the perspective of how the Nazis did it. Not why they did it, but how they did it. And he avoided throughout his life addressing the question, why? And but he dealt in great detail. As I said, his book ran to well over 1,000 pages about how the government organized things, how everything was set up to allow for such a massive slaughter. And and it was a very insightful book. It gave a lot of perspective about how the Germans were able how to do this. Today, a man named Grishaver spoke at the UN in commemoration of this sad occasion. And Grishaver is a child Holocaust survivor from Holland. And this week there was a new book published about the Jewish councils of Holland and Belgium and France. So now we're moving from Hilberg's perspective, how did the Germans do it, to the Jewish perspective, how was the Jewish response? And over the years, the Jewish councils have been condemned and attacked for collaborating with the Nazis. And so this book is written by a Dutch historian and focuses primarily on Holland and compares it to Belgium, says that this is not really fair, that these were people that were forced into the role, they had no choice, and that they had very little, if any, latitude, that there was really no alternatives. They couldn't do anything. They were ordered what they were supposed to do by the Germans, and they couldn't do this. Hannah Arendt, who was a very famous German Jewish thinker, she's still studied very extensively in universities, and she escaped from the Nazis. She was a rather controversial figure in her own right. She had her philosophy professor was Heidegger, who's considered probably the greatest philosopher of the 20th century. Unfortunately, he was a rabid Nazi, so it's a question in its own right. How does such a brilliant philosopher embrace the Nazi ideology? I'm not exactly sure what happened after the war, but I didn't read anything that he publicly repudiated his earlier beliefs. But she had an affair with him in the early 1930s, and this was certainly seen as a highly critical thing. How can you literally get in bed with the enemy, with the Nazis, with those who hate us? But anyway, Arendt said that these Jewish councils were collaborators, were guilty of making the Holocaust far worse than it would have been otherwise. And her thinking was that without the Jewish councils, there would have been complete havoc and chaos. And so you could only imagine if something like that was to happen in the U.S., we would all completely and totally freak out. And she says if that would have continued, that would have been good, because everybody's freaking out, everybody's running which way. It's hard to kill large numbers of people if they're all freaking out and running in different directions. The Jewish councils, by bringing order to the communities, made it far easier to organize and to herd people onto trains and to distribute whatever they want to distribute, and so forth and so on. And so by doing that, they actually helped to kill far more people than would have been done other than that. There's individual cases that are particularly egregious. You may be familiar with the Warsaw Ghetto, and the head of the Warsaw Ghetto, when it became clear that the Nazis were not only going to demand a certain number of people a day, but that they were not going to relent, he took cyanide in his office and left a note saying there was nothing that he could do, and that the only way he could see forward was to take cyanide. In contrast to this, in Lodz, Chaim Rokowski, who's very infamous head of the Jewish Council there, in German called Judenrat. He set up a lot of factories and workshops to produce all sorts of things, from children's toys to weapons. And Rumkowski was very harsh. If you opposed him, he would have you deported immediately, and people hated him. In the end, he was killed himself, and as were pretty much everyone. There's a lot of documentation about this because the Jewish Council photographer was a man named Ross, and Ross secretly began to take pictures of things he wasn't supposed to take pictures of. So he was supposed to document certain things for the Nazis, but he secretly began to document a lot of other stuff. When it became clear that the ghetto was going to be liquidated, he buried 6,000 negatives. He and his wife were part of a small crew left behind to clean up, and they survived. And then afterwards he went back and dug up the negatives. About half of them had been destroyed by water, but the other half were still okay. He could not find a publisher to publish his photos in the 1950s because it stressed so much the role of the Jewish Council, which was seen by both Jews and non-Jews as very morally problematic. He was one of the witnesses at the Eichmann trial in the early 1960s. But there's a tremendous value in these photographs. Many of these photographs are very hard to understand in the context of what you're looking at. Some of them, there's some of a boyfriend and girlfriends courting. There's one of two little kids playing ghetto policeman and Jew. There's some very bizarre photos from our perspective, but he took photos of what was going on, and it was such a surreal and really unbelievable time and place that I guess it's not that surprising that the photos were so bizarre. So there's a very mixed and troubled legacy. The new book says that Rumkowski felt that if he gave the Germans the weak, that he could keep the strong alive, and if he kept these factories and workshops going, the Germans would let them live because they had economic value for them. And that if the Soviets were able to advance, that he could save 40,000, 60,000, 80,000, lots and lots of people. And in truth, if the Soviets had liberated Lodz sooner, as you recall, they were advancing, and then they were stopped by the Germans, and it was only many months later that they actually got that far. If they hadn't been stopped, that probably would have been true. And Lodz would have been liberated, tens of thousands of people's lives would have still been alive, and Rumkowski would have been probably seen as a hero. As it was, pretty much everyone died except for about 600 of those left behind at the very end, and so he's seen as a villain. So it's hard to judge under these circumstances. Sorry. I don't like to talk about the Holocaust. It's it's not a pleasant topic, as you can imagine. But I think that the UN felt it was necessary because a lot of countries completely ignore it, deny it. In our own country, a Pew poll from just a couple of years ago showed that something like 44% of Generation Y or Z or X, or I'm not sure, but those younger people that that are running around have no idea. And it's not just the Holocaust, of course, it's that they don't study anything about history. The only thing that concerns contemporary society is contemporary society. But nevertheless, it's just a very sad and shocking thing. The lead singer of KISS, Gene Simmons, who's not usually someone I quote from the Bima, but he's of course Israeli, and his mother is a Hungarian Holocaust survivor. I don't think he ever practiced Judaism or raised his children as Jewish. In his autobiography, he say again? He does practice Judaism? Okay, well, anyway, so he's certainly very aware of these issues. So he apparently went to the UN commemoration, and he pronounced it boring, and he said, if you're going to reach the younger generation, you need something. The Israeli representative UN was there, and the Secretary General of the UN, and the people you would expect, and it was a solemn occasion, as you would also expect. And he says, no, if you're going to reach the younger generation, you're going to have a very different approach. You need the U2 band, and you need people there who will be able to attract the interest and attention of the younger generation and of those large numbers of people around the world who don't care about historical events. They don't care about what the Secretary General of the UN is saying or doing, but they do care about what Bono is saying and doing, and what Mick Jagger is saying and doing, and so forth and so on. And so there's certainly a point to this, that for the Holocaust to be remembered and commemorated, and for people to draw appropriate lessons, there's a need to educate in new ways. It's a hard subject to talk about on Friday night, and I don't want to diminish the joy of Shabbat by mentioning this, but I think it's unfortunately necessary. For Jews, the primary Holocaust commemoration is Yom HaShoah, which occurs in about 3 months' time from now. And we may have a special service commemorating that on its own. So that's just a couple of thoughts on this sad occasion. Please rise now for the tefillah, which begins on page 164.
Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei El Hagadol Hagibor Anora El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot U'Mevi Geula Levnei V'neihem L'man Shemo Bava Melech Ozer U'Mashiach U'Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Sarah.
Roshia, Ehagel, Bechesed, Rofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umikayim Emunato, Ishenei Afar. Kurot umidamela
Umakaye, Umatzmiak Yeshua, V'ne'aman talakayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekaye hakol, atah Shim, Bechol am v'hallelu Selah, Baruch atah Adonai,
We turn to page 325 toward the bottom of the page, and we join together. That's page 325. We join together. You are the open door that beckons me in. Peeking around the door frame, I begin to enter into your glory. You move me forward, O Eternal, to step beyond self-made boundaries. Lift my foot over the threshold that I might abide with you in the house of the Eternal. I found my questions, page 326. We join together. I found my questions waiting to be posed. They filled me with wonder. Sit with me, eternal teacher. Encourage my seeking as I fill my hours with your mitzvot. So shall I be filled. Send me through your door, stretching up to honor your name, sharing out this wonder, enriching myself in the giving. Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives life to all. Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol. The symbolism of the door, an open or a closed door. We now pray silently, standing or seated.
Shalom Aleinu Yakol Yisrael V'yimaru Amen. Oh, say Shalom b'imromav Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Yisrael V'yimaru Amen. Oh, say Shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru Amen. Oh, say Shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh Shalom aleinu Please be seated. Return to page 330. And we join together. Page 330. On this Shabbat day, as you graciously receive our prayers, help us to hear your call. Grant us enough health to fulfill our duties and the compassion we need to attend to others. Teach us humility that we may perceive our own faults, and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. Give us the courage to be true to our highest selves and the charity to see the best in those around us. Give us patience enough not to become discouraged, hope enough to overcome all fears for the future, and faith enough to know your presence. O source of being, Look with favor upon us. May our offerings be acceptable to you. We praise you, Adonai, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. We turn now to the Mishaberach on page 371. I'd like to pray for Carolyn Edlin, her daughter and son. If you could just wave, are here. They both came in. She's very sick and in rapidly declining health, and we hope and pray that she may be comfortable, and it's, I think, wonderful that she'll be with her loved ones at this time. So we pray for Carolyn. We also pray for Allison Shedroff, the Lee and Sandy's daughter, who lives with them, and she's recovering from COVID. I was able, thanks to Jennifer, alerted me today that Lila Hauptman had a feeling in her chest that her heart was beating irregularly, so she went to the emergency room and they're doing tests. And thanks, Jennifer, I was able to call her, and she just finished a bunch of tests, and they dropped her back into the emergency room and said, wait for a few hours and we'll get the results, and then we'll tell you what we need to do. So we hope that it's something simple, and she'll be out of the emergency room hopefully by now and back home. We also pray for everyone who is in need of healing. At this time, please think and feel for all those in need of healing.
Sharon Helvan had a very bad fall.
And that was today?
2 days ago.
Okay, so we pray for Sharon Helban. Is there anyone else that has immediate serious things? Okay, I'm not going to go around fully, but we also pray for all those in our congregation and community who are dealing with long-term chronic diseases, most especially cancer, and we pray that the doctors may be able to use all the innovative techniques to defeat this terrible disease. And so we think and feel for all those in need of healing as we join together in the Mishaberach. Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha.
May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
Mishaberach Imotenu Avotenu. Healing, Refuah Shlema,
The renewal body,
and let us say,
Amen.
please rise for the Torah service beginning on 362.
et ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai Yerushalayim. Torah, 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 Yamo Yisrael, Kedushato, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Kadosh Shema. You want to carry it the rest of the way? It's only 100 pounds. Hello. Hi, Geraldine. Oops. Oh. Oh. Wow. Can you hold this? It came off of this. Thank you. Please be seated. While I was walking around with the Torah, Bonnie Logmeyer was nice enough to take possession of 3 little pieces of silver, and I see it comes from the end of the yad. So, thank you, Vicki, for noticing it. And so we'll hopefully be able to put it back together. I have the honor of calling for the Torah blessing Larry and Joanne, who are also celebrating a very special milestone in their lives. So come on up, and you want to tell us what the milestone is?
19 years of wedded bliss.
Wow. Wow. And how did you do that?
How did we do that, Larry?
Well, there's 3 things that have kept us strong over the years. First thing is we're good listeners. We listen to each other. Second thing is we learn how to compromise. That's very important. And the third thing is that we know how to empathize with each other, which is very important. All the things that are going on around us. So that's why we're still happy and we're still good friends.
And we like each other.
Yeah.
That helps, not just loving each other, but liking each other.
Wow. What do you think, Ben? Okay, it's a long way off, but it's always good to take notes. And so if you were giving advice to Ben in the far future, what would you suggest?
Don't get married too young.
No, but when he does,
When he does.
what should he do or think or feel or prepare for, or what would you do? What would you tell him that you've done that's worked, or I don't know, lessons?
I think we said it already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the parsha. You can, Joanne, you take this and touch there, and then kiss it, and then you can both do the opening blessing.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. And then if you can hold the right side, and I think we're ready. Okay. Yeah, Larry, I guess you can come around this side. It'll make a better photo. We're making a new website, so we want some good photos to smile. Amen. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and God spoke to Moses, saying, Ba daber el Pharaoh melech Mitzrayim. Go, speak to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Vayishlach et Bnei Yisrael me'artzo, that he shall send forth the children of Israel from his land. Vayidaber Moshe lifnei Adonai lemor. And then Moses turned to God and said, Hein Bnei Yisrael lo shamu elai. The children of Israel, they didn't listen to me. They don't listen to me. Ve'ech yishma'eni Pharaoh. And if the children of Israel don't listen to me, how do you expect the Pharaoh to listen to me? Vani aral svatayim. And added to this lack of ability to convey gravitas, I am arel svatayim. Svatayim are lips. And arel is some sort of cutting. I have cut lips, which is kind of an expression, apparently a biblical expression, meaning referring to that I stutter. I don't speak well. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe v'la'Aaron. And then God said to Moses and to Aaron, Tzum el bnei Yisrael vel Pharaoh melech Mitzrayim lotzi et bnei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim. Go and tell Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, to send forth the children of Israel from the land of Egypt. So if you notice there's a subtle shift there by adding those two words, ve'el Aharon. God was speaking previously to Moses, and now God is speaking to Moses and also to, there you go. And so this is not just, this happens in the Torah that it goes back and forth. Sometimes God talks to one, sometimes God talks to both. But here, I think it's deliberate that Aaron is added because of Moses' comments. That God realizes, I can't just send Moses. He won't be able to cope, if only psychologically, but also physically. I need to include Aaron. And so Aaron can be basically the spokesperson for Moses.
Baruch
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nota betzochenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Please rise as we lift the Torah.
לפני בני ישראל, פי אדוני, מיד משה. יעלו את שם אדוני, וישגח שמו לבדו. הודו על ארץ ושמיים, וירם קרן לעמו. Ida
Hallelujah. He may need help with the cover.
קרן לעמו, תהילה, תהילה לכל חסידיו, לפני ישראל, עם קרובו, הללויה, 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 הללויה.
Thank you, Larry.
קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים.
Please remain standing as we prepare for the mourner's Kaddish. We remember the recent death of Jerome Jerry Black, former president of our congregation, who passed away in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Also, the yahrzeits of Samuel Arts, the father of Lila Houtman, Mordechai Ben Shmuel, the father of Bert Stoloff, Jack Craycroft, the stepfather of Michael Sager, Robert Fader, the brother of Maxine Datesman, Sherman L. Goldberg, the husband of Sue Goldberg, Carl Hoffman, the brother of Evelyn Dragiff, Silas Jacob Howard Jr., the father of Gloria Bold, Hazel Heron Levinson, the mother of Janie Stein, Bernice Rosen Moreau, the sister of Jerry Rosen, Jeanette S. Young, the mother of Shari Young, Toby Mann, the mother of Bonnie Gomez, and also the mother of Joel Lehman.
And Robbie Lance. 3 children.
May your mother's memory always be for a blessing. We also remember the loved ones of the legacy members whose lights are lit on the yahrzeit board to your right. Is there anyone else who has either a memory of a recent death or of a yahrzeit that you would like to remember? We join together in the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598 in Aramaic. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei rabbah v'alma dibra krutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chai echad u'b'yom echad u'b'chayei d'kol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'b'zman kariv v'yamru Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach li'alam u'lamei amaya Yitrach v'yishtabach v'u'ar v'yitramad v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalel v'yitalal shmei dekusha brichu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata amiram bi'alma v'yamru Yehei Shlomo Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru Oseh Shalom b'imramav hu yaseh Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and all humanity, to which we say,
Amen.
Please be seated. We have an anthem.
We do. This is from the camps, the Jewish camps, the nifty songbook, and words and music by Doug Mishkin, but it's still relevant. Let us retell the story of our struggle for the promised land. Let us remember how freedom is won, so our children will understand. Once we were slaves in Egypt, our people and our land were apart. But when Moses stood before that troubled sea, he could make those waters part. Once we were slaves in America, we were given white men's names. They scattered our families, they shattered our lives, while they kept us bound in chains. And we marched strong in Selma, we looked for racists right in the heart. And when Martin stood before that troubled sea, he could make those waters part. Somewhere tonight lives a free man, somewhere else freedom's just a song in the heart. We must find the river flowing between them, and we must make those waters part. We must make those waters part. Now we are slaves to threats of war, the many at the hands of the few. And we who've crossed the sea of slavery before must remember what we must do. In the name of the falsely imprisoned, in the name of the homeless at heart, in the name of all the history that binds us, we must make those waters part. Troubled seas rising around us, sometimes the promised land hidden from view. So we retell these stories, that's how we start, and make those waters part. And make those waters part.
Thank you, Cantor.
Thank you.
Okay, we have lots and lots of things coming up on our calendar. First of all, save the date. On Friday, February 10th, there's going to be a special Shabbat and Oneg honoring all of our members 90 plus years of age. So we do have quite a few members that are 90 and 100 plus. So everyone is invited to come, wish them well, and celebrate their longevity. Every Wednesday, we have Torah study with Rabbi Kaplan. It's an ongoing Zoom class. Please call the temple if you are interested in joining so you can get the Zoom link for it. Then on Tuesday, February 7th at 3 p.m., we're going to have a conversation with Rabbi Michael Bayo, who is from the East Valley. He is the CEO of the East Valley Jewish Community Center in Chandler, and he's coming to visit with us and tell us some about his programs that they do, getting more involved, bringing us in tune with some of the other Jewish organizations. Please call the temple. We want to know how many people to have for that. So that's on Tuesday, February 7th at 3 p.m. Then the rabbi has two classes. One starts Thursday, February 2nd, America's Four Gods. He and Faye Henning Bryant will be teaching that. If you have not made your reservation, please call the temple on Monday to do so. It's $18 for members, $36 for non-members. If you have friends or you have other people from churches or whatever, please invite them to come to our classes. Then the following Tuesday, we have a 4-week class on gratitude from 10 to 11 on Tuesdays, taught by the rabbi and Riva Litt. Passages is going to have a presentation on Sunday, March 5th at 12:30 p.m. It's part of the Beit Midrash. We're going to have Breaking Glass Ceilings, Israel's first Druze woman in the Knesset. It should be a very, very interesting program, and you need to go to the Passages website. All this information is in our weekly bulletin. The Israeli trip that's being planned for the fall is having their organizational meeting on Sunday, January 29th. It's going to be at 10 a.m. in the social hall. If you have signed up, you have gotten an email about it, but if you are interested and would still like to learn, I'm sure you'd be welcome to attend. Then the monthly potluck is next Friday, February 3rd. Call the temple, let them know you're coming, because Brotherhood needs to know how many to set up for. And we're asking you to bring a main dish, either meat, chicken, or pasta, or a salad, vegetable, potato, or dessert. We are asking that you not mix milk with meat. We don't have a kosher kitchen, but we are requesting that you don't, have a meat lasagna or something like that. So call the temple.
What about, Nan, if we have a pork roast?
No pork, no shellfish. Sisterhood has their February meeting on February 20th. Our own Lauren Abramowitz, who is a certified gemologist, is going to be speaking on estate jewelry and how to care for some of the pearls and fine jewelry that you may have inherited from grandparents or parents. It should be very, very informative. And Lauren has a string of alphabet letters behind her name. She's got several degrees and certifications. That is open, $12 for Sisterhood members, $15 for non-members. Also, Temple Beth Shalom Social Action, our can-do for January was canned fruit. You have until Tuesday to get the fruit cans here. And then next Friday, being a new month, it's going to be canned vegetables. We've done quite well. We are filling a very big void that is in our area. The food goes to the West Valley View Food Bank. They get people every day that come in and need food. So if we can help, that would be wonderful. In March, on the 26th, which is a Sunday, the Rural Street Klezmer Band is coming back. They will be performing right here on the Bema. So it'll be inside, $20 tickets in advance, $25 the day of the concert. And also, Joyce and Mary Gill run a weekly grief group, so you're always welcome to come. That's on Tuesdays at 1:30, and that is it. So as you can see, we are rocking and rolling with a lot of fundraisers, and we will have a Passover Seder. So that's another thing. Please make a reservation on your calendar to join us on the first night of Passover, April 5th. Details will be forthcoming, but it's being planned now. Shabbat Shalom.
And show Ben what you're reading off of mostly.
The weekly bulletin here. I mean, somebody came in last week and said, well, where's the printed copy? We have not had printed copies since before COVID, and that was in 2019. So we want to make sure Lori Baker is doing a phenomenal job with the weekly bulletin. When you get the email, you may not read everything in detail, but please scroll through it and just see the list of what is coming and lists of birthdays, anniversaries. Happy anniversary to the Gorlicks.
You can read that writing?
I got new glasses. Yes, I can. It's a better prescription. So, yes, I can now read my phone. And there are some flyers on the table in the lobby. So if you want more information regarding the 2 upcoming classes, please take a flyer and give the temple a call on Monday. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Nan. That's very nice. And so we're ready to conclude our service. We want to thank the Sisterhood for a wonderful oneg. I got a preview of it, although I wasn't allowed to eat any of the cookies. But even better than the cookies, just to tip you off, go straight for the tiramisu. Please rise for the final benediction and then Tfilat Haderech. May God bless you and keep you. May God's light shine upon you, and may God be gracious to you. May you feel God's presence within you always, and may you find peace, happiness, and love. And let us say,
May we be blessed as we go on our way. May we be guided in peace. May we be blessed with health and joy. May this be our blessing. Amen. Amen. May this be our blessing. Amen. Amen. May this be our blessing. Amen. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat